Ja Morant responded yesterday to one of Deion's inspirational Thought for the Day tweets. This is what Coach Prime tweeted. How do you see yourself? You've got to start seeing you the way God sees you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are more than a conqueror. You are created to have dominion, and you are blessed. Please understand all the positivity going on in your life and stop allowing the negativity to dominate your mind. You are God's masterpiece and the light of the world. Now act like it.
Preach.
Ja responded on Twitter, right on time, Prime, much needed. A new ESPN story goes deeper into all the incidents Ja was involved in last year, several, of course, involving guns, and says when Coach Taylor Jenkins, GM Zach Kleiman tried to talk to Ja about what kept happening, Ja showed disinterest, even apathy, which was denied by Ja's agent in this story. So, Keyshawn, let's start with you. Do you believe that Coach Prime's tweet will hit home with Ja?
You know, I don't know that it'll hit home, but he certainly felt it. And Michael, you would know this too, Skip. Whenever you are going through some things in life and there's a message, you know, if you are in church and you're sitting there and there's a message being delivered, he isn't looking at you, but you certainly feel
it. You feel it.
You know what I'm saying? You feel it. You like, yeah, he's talking to me directly. And so I think that's where the Prime thing and Ja comes to connect. He wasn't talking to Ja, but he was talking to Ja. And Ja has had issues in the past. Clearly, he's missing games this year because of suspension. And you have an opportunity to sit back and reflect on things that you have had to deal with throughout your life, and it sits home. When you think about what Prime is saying, when he sits there and you talk about stop allowing the negativity, well, that negativity is all the things that you have gone through from the time that you were in Denver with the situation at the gun, and you were in the car again waving the gun, and you were at the volleyball game getting to a confrontation or a confrontation in front of the house or on the plane with liquor, disposing it for the world to see on one of those video streams. That's what he's talking about. And now as Ja sits back and he reflects on that, Michael, he's sitting there saying, man, I've got to now figure this out. He feels it. Doesn't mean that it registers and is going to stay with him, because 4 months from now it could get lost. It could just one ear and out the other. We see it all the time. So hopefully in this situation, with the right people surrounding around him and the Grizzlies stepping up and getting him the necessary help that he needed, not the 11 days that he spent in Florida after the incident in Denver, but real help, real counseling, then he could become someone totally different, Michael.
And listening to it, and I got emotion over here listening to it. I've heard him say those same things to me. You know, and he's right. I've heard him say it. I've been there. I've seen him talk to me in that manner. Let me tell you what I believe will happen here. You know, now what will happen, I believe, is some form of relationship will start. Because I know Deion will try to have that relationship with him so he can continue to be in his ear. Skip, Key, we all come out and we say a lot of things, but you got to still fall back into the element that you are in and go around the people that you have been around. The reality is, just like a lot of us, Ja has to make a decision. Ja has been blessed with gifts and talents that can take him and change the outcome for his family. But everybody's not meant to go where you're going. And sometimes some of the people that have helped you get to these places, it's hard to say, man, I appreciate all the work and all the things that you've done when we've had nothing and you've helped. But I got to continue to move and go forward and try to do things the right way. And sometimes that means you don't got to cut people off, but you got to distance yourself a little bit. You can't be with people all the time and running around. I got a son. He raps. His rap name is Tut Tarantino. If you ever listen to some of his raps, I'm like, oh my God, where does this come from, son? You grew up in a gated community your whole life, but he's rapping my life because we romanticize and fantasize about that old thug life, ghetto life, and all of that stuff. When we used to work to get away from it, now we've gotten to a place somehow we're running back towards it in the music and everything. In the days I was coming up, all of those guys that you see, the Ja Morants, them hanging around, those guys were still around us, Key. But it was, they were like, get out of here. Stop doing this. You got a chance to make it out of here the right way. So those guys would try to tell you to stop being in these neighborhoods. Stop hanging out. Go do what you have to do. It's not like that now. The guys are more hanging on and want to go with guys, and you're tearing up careers. I mean, we got to be good enough in the neighborhood to know when God has touched somebody with that gift that time is talking about, and be good enough to say, hey, man, you shouldn't be around here. You shouldn't be doing things. You got a chance to do it the right way and change a lot of lives and help out our people. And we got to be strong enough to do that.
Okay, speaking of rappers, in a few minutes, we're going to have Lil Wayne join us once again in studio. And when Ja hit bottom last year, Lil Wayne called me and said, do you know how to get in touch with Ja? And I said, well, he follows me, so I don't DM people, but I said, I'll DM him. I'll send him your number. And Wayne said, I can help him. And trust me on this, I know Wayne raps and I know the lyrics and I got this, but he is a deep dude and he knows. He knows life and he knows right from wrong, and he could have helped Ja at that moment. So I DM'd Wayne's information and he never heard from Ja because I think Ja was in another place at that point. So this response to Coach Prime's tweet gave me hope for Ja. I'm his biggest fan because, to your point, Michael, you were talking about gift. I mean, it's just, we all agree. We all get it. And the ESPN story points out that before his draft, so many scouts went deep dive on deep background checks on him, and it quotes a bunch of these scouts as saying he had zero issues in his past in college or high school. He came from a good home, a two-parent home. And yet now the story points out that the Grizzlies believe his father, T, who now travels with him on the road, has become kind of a quasi-NBA superstar of his own. You know, he's living the good life as a star on the road with his son, and that he's become an enabler for his son. And yet this describes him as a choir boy in his rookie year. Until his second year, he got paid, he got his money, and he made his first All-Star team, and here it went. As the story says, the alligators got him. He began to drink more and more. He began to show up, according to the story, looking a little hungover, be a little late to the team meeting the next morning. He was taking his friends from his past and a bunch of his family members on the road every time. To every game, and would take them all out to different places, and they would go to strip clubs. And all of a sudden, his life started to change dramatically and for the worse. And one thing led to another and led to another. And I tried to go with it to the point that when he finally hit bottom, remember, he posted a statement saying, I have a problem and I need to go get help. And I was like, hooray for you, young man, go do it. He went to some facility in Florida, I guess. He wasn't there for 2 days. I know these things. I've been through it with my family. If you're going to go to any kind of rehab, you have to go for at least 3 weeks, if not 3 months. And he was there for a couple of days, and then he said, I'm great. And he said, I didn't have an alcohol problem. I had a stress problem. I just had to learn how to cope with stress. I don't know. The one quote in the story that hit me was from the GM I just mentioned, Kleiman, who was a couple of years ago the GM of the year. He just said, at this point, it doesn't matter until Ja follows through. I couldn't care less about words. Ja has to now prove it. Obviously, he's out for 25 games. So, Keyshawn, your thoughts on, you've seen kids come from bad backgrounds and struggle, but he came from a really solid background and struggle.
Well, look, Skip, you said a lot right there, right? So I'll try to unpack it slowly but surely, piece by piece. When you talk about a kid with a two-parent household growing up. I didn't grow up with a two-parent household, only my mom. my mom raised 6 of us, but within that household, though, I had aunties and cousins and brothers and sisters that kept things a certain way.
Where were you in the
I'm the youngest, the youngest of 6 kids. And so as you look at it, you have to have people around you, like Michael said, that says, yo, you got an opportunity to do something outside of what we've done. This is cool for now, but you got bigger goals and bigger things in your life. Now let's fast forward to his dad. It's his father, okay? No matter what anybody says, it's his father. And in this professional sports world, and Michael could attest to this because he played at a professional level, he has 17 brothers and sisters. He knows. Family members, when friends and hanger-on types start to come around, certain family members feel a certain way that they're going to get pushed aside for those that you are closer to, which is more your age, your peer, your age group. So a lot of times the parents become the enablers because they don't want to get X'd out. We see it all the time. They get X'd out the equation. Now they feel a certain way. So his dad, who I've been very, very critical of because I want him to be a father opposed to a friend, and snatch him by them damn braids and get him to do right. And if he does that, he ain't gonna get X'd out. But at some point in time, if he continues to allow things, which I think it will be different this year because clearly over the last year, they've learned a lot. They've seen a lot. So you would hope that things will be different. For his dad to take control of the situation. And as far as bringing family and friends to games and treating them and doing those sort of things, his grandmom, things like that, we're going to do that. That's just, that is what we do, okay? Because we are the breadwinners. So we are going to take care of our family to an extent that we don't crash and burn while doing it. And I think Ja is good-hearted for those sort of things, but the extracurricular stuff has to stop or else he'll never have the opportunity to continue to give them lobster and steak, okay? It won't happen because teams will get fed up, contracts will be lost as they were, and some of the sponsors will drop you, things like that. I see it all the time, man. I see it all the time, Michael, and you try your best to teach guys, hey, that's not the way to go, but everybody has their own situation. Part of the blame, I'll close in this, part of the blame goes to the Grizzlies, to Ja Morant, and to the people around him. Equal shares for everybody.
Right. And Skip brought up something, you know, and one of the things that I speak on a lot in the offseason is fatherlessness. And this is a touchy subject for me, you know. And I grew up in a 2-parent home. And hearing that Ja Morant grew up in a 2-parent home, you know, the numbers are astronomical. You'll have 30% Caucasian, 51% Hispanic Americans, about 73%, that's almost 75% African Americans, fathers not in their child's life, not in the kid's life. So Ja Morant's father's been around. That's good. But do we need to take control of that, or does he need to take control of that? Yes, and help Ja Morant out and say, hey, man, let's make better decisions. You know, that's the whole idea. If you got your parent around, you're expecting them to make better decisions. And sometimes it is disturbing that you see people are starting to say his father's around and an enabler in this situation. I want to honor his father for staying in his life when so many African-American fathers are not in his life. But I do want to say, hey, let's make sure we get him going in the right direction, man. Ja's a great talent. I guarantee you, and I hope Deion reaches back out to him and solidify that relationship. Not just tweet back and forth, but solidify that relationship so he can have a sounding board or somebody that don't eat, drink, smoke, or do any of that stuff to get advice from. That's the best thing that I love about Time. Time, you never got to worry about it. He's never done any of that. So whenever he's speaking to you, it's strictly from the heart and for your benefit.
See, Skip, you mentioned stress, right? About Ja saying it's stress. It's not the things that people think.
That's family stress. He ain't lying.
But that is, I was just about to say, Michael, that's real.
That's real.
That's real because you're being pulled so many different directions. Now people trying to pit you against your dad, pit you against your cousin, pit you against friends that you grew up with, that you brought along. So that stress will make you go do other things because now you're off the court. You want to just kind of enjoy yourself. So now when you're trying to enjoy yourself, you are picking the wrong things to enjoy. Right?
And that's so good, Key. That's so good, Key. That's so good. Because, I can speak to that totally. And then you start using it. You start using it as an excuse. I'm drinking because y'all bother me. Leave me alone. All of that stuff that you're using is a crutch. But it is stressful. And you throw it back at your family to back up, leave me alone. I've been doing this. I'm just, I'm taking care of everybody. All of those things. Key, you hit the nail on the head. And I'm talking. I ain't telling you something I heard. I'm telling you something I lived. I know you're telling the truth.
So what's intriguing about this is that you both have children, but you both still control their purse strings. You know what I mean? Like you were the provider. But now the roles have been reversed because the father no longer has the purse strings. Ja has the purse strings. So the father is going, he's riding along with Ja now as opposed to vice versa.
Remember what I said, Skip, you're not trying to get X'd out.
No, you don't want to get X'd out.
You don't want to get, I see it all the time where mommy gets X'd out, daddy gets X'd out, the homeboys are now running the whole deal.
Yeah. And by the way, one other thing that was pointed out in the ESPN story, they quoted Jeff Calkins, who's a longtime Memphis columnist. Remember, Memphis, I believe, is the smallest NBA TV market. So Ja is by far the biggest fish in that town. Such a big fish that Jeff Calkins is quoted as saying he's the biggest star we've had since Elvis. Well, think about that. That's how big he is in that fairly small town. And as you guys know, that town has a rough side to it. Is
Elvis still alive?
He may be. I don't know. But Ja's still.
That's quite a compliment. That is quite a compliment.
But that's how big he is in that town.
Since Elvis.
Yeah. So it's hard on him because he's got everything at his fingertips. And then, as it quotes a lot of people in the story, is saying the choir boy that we knew when he was a rookie became somebody else. And he started coming to all of our establishments and getting into it with everybody and insulting people and with big chip on his shoulder, and he changed radically. Well, again, when you're treated like Elvis and you're only 21, 22, right?
You just got to mature.
It's just hard to cope with it because you came from nowhere because he was lightly recruited out of high school. He goes to Murray State. He didn't go to Duke. He wasn't a Kansas superstar. He wasn't that guy in college. People thought he could be, and again, he went.
But he was a number 2 pick in the draft.
He was a number 2. I got it. But, it's 25 games, and I hope he's learned his lesson. But I did appreciate in the end that he responded to Coach Prime because that was in fact, when I first read Deion's tweet, I thought it was aimed at Ja. I thought it was targeted for Ja, and it should have been because it.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
Without it being direct.
Right.
Remember what I said?
Yeah.
When you're sitting there, man, it feels like he's talking to you.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.